Shabbat Shalom. Many blessings upon you all. We are in Deuteronomy 18, starting in verse 9. I have a note for the beginning of this in my Schofield Bible, which is just a King James Bible. I mean, it's KJV. Says the new Schofield study system with a red letter concordance. I really like this Bible. I'm not saying you have to get this Bible. There are other great King James Bibles out there. And there are other good Bible translations as well. But I will say this. Be careful of which translation you get. I would suggest not the NIV. I will say that. And I'll leave it there for this. So we are in Deuteronomy Deuteronomy chapter 18, starting in verse 9. And my note for this, Spiritism is forbidden. And we are going to read up through 14. And that's going to be our lesson for today, I believe. I want you all to ask yourself this question. Is it okay if we read Harry Potter? Is it okay if we watch the movies Harry Potter? Is it okay if my daughter watches Cinderella with King Arthur and the Knights of the Round Table? I am not going to answer this question for you. But I want you, while we're reading this, I want you to ask yourself this question. Is it okay if our child, or us, personally, as people, watch movies and read books with wizards and witches and conjurers and etc. Necromancers. What's a necromancer? That's someone who talks to dead people. So I want you all to ask that question. Is it okay if I read books with this in it? That would include your Disney princesses, or those that paint them in a positive light. We can say that as well, to be more specific. For example, you look at like the Disney story of Snow White. The only magician, so to speak, is or wizard or whatever, is portrayed in a negative light. Now, I'm not going to get too much into that, but I want you to ask yourself these questions. Is it okay? Period. How do you compare the Brothers Grimm novels, the Harry Potter, that kind of stuff, as opposed, and you can also go into like your Disney type movies. Is it okay? When thou art come into the land which the Lord thy God giveth thee, thou shalt not learn to do after the abominations of those nations. Hey, don't do it. Don't even learn doing it. That's basically what that says. Don't even learn how to do it. There shall not be found among you anyone who maketh his son or his daughter pass through the fire, or uses divination, or an observer of times, or an enchanter, or a witch, or a charmer, or a consulter of mediums, or a wizard, or a necromancer. For all that do these things are an abomination unto the Lord. And because of these abominations, the Lord thy God doth drive them out from before thee. Thou shalt be perfect with the Lord thy God. For these nations whom thou shalt possess, hearkened unto observers of times and unto diviners. But as for thee, the Lord thy God hath not permitted thee so to do. So, excuse me. That's some pretty strong stuff. Now, I'm going to get in. Pass through the fire is a reference to, and like make your children pass through the fire. It is related to the worship of Molech, and I actually even have a note about this, and it says that this is an important passage, and a note in the bottom here, and is an important passage concerning prescribed practices of sacrifice and of inquiry concerning the future, which are followed by the heathen nations. The items of sacrifice, that is, the item of sacrifice that is condemned, had to do with the worship of Molech. On your own time, you can check out Leviticus. Actually, you know what? We're going to go to at least Leviticus 18. We're going to go there right now. Genesis, Exodus, Leviticus. Alright. Oh, too far. Again, folks. And this is what happens when you have farmer hands. And Leviticus 18, verse 21 is where it says to start. Thou shalt not let any of thy seed pass through the fire to Molech, neither shalt thou profane the name of the Lord thy God. I am the Lord. And basically what this means is up in the temple for Molech, they had this big old, fire. I mean, Molech's like a big owl statue. He's Satan, okay? He's a demon. We do not worship demons. We do not do the things that they do to worship demons. How did they worship this particular demon? Well, making their children pass through the fire. Essentially, they burned their children alive. People would give their children into this fire, and their children, would be consumed by the fire and burn up, and they would have music and everything going, beating drums and screaming and shouting to drown out the screams of the children while they're being burned alive. Now let me be quite honest. When you hear that this kind of stuff is what's going on in the heathen nations, you really understand why God had Israel wipe out so many people. You really understand when this stuff is going on. I don't care if you are sacrificing children. I don't know if there's redemption at that point. I'm not going to say one way or the other. But this is all tied into worship of Molech. Everything mentioned here is tied into the worship of Molech, okay? So what are some examples? Wizards. Wizard, okay. Necromancers. That's a big one you hear in your modern pop culture. It's like, ooh, the necromancer. I think that's a book series like about the necromancer, a guy who talks to dead people. We don't talk to dead people. You don't talk to dead people. You know who they talk to? They talk to demons. All right. Witches, wizards, divination. Those are like your crystal ball people. Any of that. That's all tied into worship of Molech. So I'm going to ask you this question again. Is it okay to watch things and read things that have to do with witches and wizards? We're already, as a society, we're sacrificing children at the altar of Molech right now, every day, in abortion clinics across the country. Children are getting sacrificed to demons through the worship of ourselves. The worships, it's selfishness, self-worship. It's all tied in, folks. It's all tied into Satanism. Molech is Satan, demons. It's all tied together. Now you answer that question. Answer that question for yourself with fear and trembling. And if you can find a scripture that says it's okay, then let me know, because I haven't found it yet. Now, I'm sorry, I'm coming off a little strong here, but when I read about sacrificing children, I tend to get a little angry. When I read about that, I don't feel very friendly. And you really start rooting for the Israelites and killing off entire races of entire tribes, because this is the kind of stuff they were doing. That's why. All right, y'all. I know that wasn't exactly the uplifting thing, the uplifting study, sermon, talk, whatever you want to call it. But it is what it is. Alrighty, y'all. Brother T here. I'm signing out. God bless. Shalom.